Yeah. Hell yeah. How the frick? How? What
Might
is?
be a Twitch issue.
It could be a Twitch issue. We never know.
Yep, Twitch is trying to kill our stream before we can get off the ground.
Apparently, we're not having any further issues. Okay, we're back to normal. 0% drop frames. We are doing good.
Okay, alright.
Right.
The
so,
gods have allowed it.
anyone that was watching the previous stream, I have deleted said stream, so you'll never be able to see it again.
Trust me, you didn't miss anything.
You missed.
It was all
basically
just a fever dream.
It was a fever dream where the frames dropped below suboptimal levels. So now we're suboptimal again. We're 720, 60 frames. So
Don't worry, Chad. I clipped it for you.
bitch. So, well,
Like it.
either welcome to the Phylactery podcast, where a bunch of us losers talk about all the things we love and all the things we absolutely despise. And today we are talking about magical theory and history in the world of Eurithan, our homebrew D&D world. And we are currently in part 2 of an unknown length series because a few people have about 60 questions to ask me. And I will be drawing them on this wonderful thing above us to try and demonstrate everything. If you were watching the previous stream, welcome back. We're all
The shit show continues.
The shit show continues with the same intro as last time.
Well, we're still on the topic of, spells, the casting of magic, and individuals. Don't worry, boys and girls. Things like alchemy and magic items will get their own turn soon enough.
I mean, we kind of touched on it a while ago, but yeah.
Well, there's a difference between
Yeah.
touching and delving.
I don't want to
Yep,
delve.
that was just skimming the surface. This one's gonna go all up in. This one's gonna go far deeper. But let's start with personal magic. Mainly it's this, Moo.
Mm-hmm.
You establish this as canon that everyone's magic is a little bit especially like some tradition, it's a little bit different, different smells, different tastes, different weights and such.
Like their own
Like-
aura.
Yeah.
Yep. Like, for example, my previous character, Drone from Campaign 2, his magic smelled like mint, was typically translucent blue in color, and smelled like antiseptic.
Mhm.
But that's because, I thought it was a really cool element. So talk about one's personal aura, air quotes.
Mhm.
Why would one's aura differ from another person's? What is the changes involved?
Changes involved.
Is it based off of physiology, psychology, or their practices?
Kind of a combination of all three, I'm afraid. So it's kind of like, I'll say it's a terrible brain. I'll put some swirls in there so people understand. A little zappy zap there. And it could also be, I don't know, emotional. That's a terrible heart, by the way. You wouldn't think I took art classes, would you? Turd, heart, and I don't know. I don't know how personality would do. I'll just draw a big bicep. Blah. Physical health.
Alright. Well, I'm asking this is because... Alright, so let's say we have somebody who's able to cast spells from two different traditions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, dude's a druid. Let's say we have, this mythical character. He's a cleric of, the god of magic, so he can also cast wizard spells. Through his deep devotion to actual spellcraft.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like 3 gods of magic in your setting.
There's a few, yeah.
So, would his magic look or feel different casting a wizard spell as opposed to a cleric spell in that case?
No.
Or would they put off 2 different air quote auras?
Nope. They would be based on where their main source of power comes from. So, say you are a cleric 10, druid 5. Your main source of power comes from there. Ergo, it will be base cleric. If you're a druid, if it was the other way around, it'd be more nature. So
Okay, what if they were? So if they were perfectly even, like a level 7 wizard, level 7 cleric.
okay, so what it would do is, because it would be using two different sets of spells, spellcasting applications, because cleric and druid will use wisdom, so it's coming through the same thing. Wizard will use their intelligence to power it, so that will change. I don't know. Let's put like a unhappy face, depending on their emotional state, personality, and if they're a cleric, it's sunlight, praise the sun. So it depends on which way around the character influences their magic. So if it's from a divine creation, it will channel through you from another zone, but from wizards, it's from the mind. So basically think of it like what we talked about last week, which was the soul. So what a wizard does, just kind of taps in a little bit and then just sends it out. And apparently we're having more difficulties with the stream. Oh no. Having some dropped frames, so anyone watching, apologies.
I'm not
It's
seeing any
fine.
issues so far.
Well, it's probably the question is audio good is probably more important in this case. Nobody actually watches podcasts; they listen to a podcast.
Yeah, you're damn right. You bet your damn bippy. I would hope that the audio is good because I have tuned it specifically for this. But yeah,
We'll know we'll know when
When
I
we
eventually get bored and watch the stream.
yeah. Which they haven't been showing up on the YouTube channel for some reason, and I've been exporting them, so could be an issue. Yeah. It goes back to just your sources, really. Wizard. It's not a wizard hat. Some stars. That'll come from ye old brain. What's some spare these? So that magic is influenced by your personality. And then the divine magic is inspired by your god. So clerics don't really have much in the way of flavor or personalization. It's different depending on your god. So Palor's sort of golden light, Helm is very deep blue color or an aquamarine blue. Sarenhel is blood red or appears to look like blood, and pretty much, yeah. Druids of the Spore have a very purplish color for their magic because it's toxic purple. Depending.
So for wizards and sorcerers and other people who try to understand their magic, it is warped by their personality or traditions and styles.
Yeah.
While for clerics, druids, and probably warlocks, it's more about their patron.
It's an external force. I don't know what else would classify under that. Got your wizards, sorcerers. Your bards would be the same with personality. Artificer, technically. Ranger, sort of.
Eldritch Knights.
Eldritch Knight. Arcane Trickster.
Psychic Rogues.
Yeah. Yeah, Psychic Rogues, yeah. Definitely. Which are a new thing.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now let's talk a little bit about attributes and spellcast in this case.
Okay, and by attributes you mean...
Charisma, intelligence, or wisdom, which are the three mental scores as typical for spellcasting. Though I should note that in that some versions of like magic and some like subclasses in 5th edition do rely on like constitution, I believe.
Yep, and that's what I changed sorcerers to be. Because it makes more sense. And wisdom.
So we know that in the rules of 5th edition, your potency, the potency of your magic, determined via spell DCs and to hit chances,
Mm-hmm.
is connected to your ability with that spell.
Mhm.
Here's a question: how does being smarter make your fireball harder to dodge?
It's usually
Like, is it
explained in a.
in regards to intelligence? Is it like an optimization of a spell, or being smart allows you to concentrate more potent spell energies?
Mhm.
Because we know that with spell slots, they are basically broken up across one's capacity in layers of thickness
Oh.
and layers of first through ninth level or whatever.
Yeah,
So
so
it's like the magic used for like a ninth level spell, like more dense than the magic used for like a first level one, for example.
yeah, so pretty much a spell will take up X amount of pages in your book. Third level takes up maybe 3 pages. When you're casting a lower, like, once you first gain access to that, you've probably learned only the first page, just enough, the rudimentaries, because you're learning the verbal components, the somatics, and maybe a material component to be used. If it's a material component, you've probably learned how to use that. Your somatics are probably okay, and your verbals are a little bit untouched, but it causes the spell to react. So, if say you are a level 5 wizard with typical fireball, I'll try FBL. Say you just learned your first page out of 3, and by say to your next spell level, when's your next proficiency increase? That's level 9. Say you've learned your second page totally, because you'll have what, a boatload more spells by that point. Yeah, about 8 spells on top of that, so that's plus 8 spells. Second page, and then next ASI is 13 question mark, and that's your final page, and you just become an absolute monster. And beyond that, it's learning nuance in the magic. So 17 I believe is into plus 6 territory, and that's when you've just mastered it. You've kind of like reading a Shakespearean play. You're starting to pick up on all the little tiny bits that make it a little bit more dangerous and a little bit harder to avoid being hit. That's the best way to describe it. You're learning. You're just learning the material.
So in a nutshell, when it comes, so higher level spells are mainly more optimized
Pretty much.
from a higher level character than a lower level one. So
Yep.
would that explain why, like, a 5th level wizard's firebolt will be more powerful than first level ones?
Yeah.
Simply because they'll optimize the spell to do the additional damage.
Yeah, like cantrips run off of fundamentals, so you're just expanding on them, and warlocks are a different story. They just are better at it because they've got their arcane sugar daddy to give them a little bit more.
They cheat.
They cheat. So do sorcerers, though.
True.
Well, it's more, yeah, actually, it's like a good metaphor for this. I think I appreciate. You see, a wizard gets A out of test because he studies hard. A sorcerer gets A out of test because they're naturally gifted. Warlocks get an A out of test because they sucked the teacher's dick.
Slantia, Olive.
Because their daddy is the dean.
Please call me the professor. No.
Stop! I will do no such thing.
Honestly, pretty smooth callback to Yoshi's picture.
You can go fuck yourself.
For anyone that does watch this, when the stream isn't absolutely crapping itself, I captured this layout, and in the original picture, Yoshi's face was kind of in a weird pout.
An inopportune moment.
Where he was inhaling Arisa's peanut butter cup. And I caught it at a beautiful moment, and then I cropped it out, and it's just his face and part of his neck, and it's the weirdest image you'll ever see. I would show it, but I have removed it from Photoshop, unfortunately.
Yep, for the best, really.
That's
Nobody
close
needs to
enough.
see that.
Yeah, for the best. You don't need to see the eldritch horror I have created.
TOS.
Explicit content of. I'm gonna look. Oh, that just leaked everywhere. Oh well. It's pretty much that. Just optimization, experience, and the capability of learning. It's different. It's pretty much the same thing for clerics who are just learning more about their prayer and just continuing that. Paladins are just sheer force of will. Nope. Eat him. I do the bonk, and the god gives me the bonk juice.
All hail the mighty Bonk.
Bonk.
Give me your bonk juice, Sky Daddy.
And now, since I brought up warlocks,
Yeah,
let's talk about warlocks.
sure.
Now, is the magic power that a warlock uses truly their own, or is this like something exported from their patron?
Now, this is something I got into an argument with one of my DMs with. So, say you are, simple farmhand, little straw thing, little yeehaw. Look at the little holster on the side there. That simple farmer guy. And you make pretty much Luffy, yeah? You make a deal with a fiend, for example. You are non-magical by the stretch of the imagination. You make that to become powerful, and you get... Oh, my tablet's slipping. That's what you get. And then you become, warlock. I can't think of a good one. I'll just put yeehaw... I don't know. Firing like into a spittoon with an eldritch blast. Blast! Like that, I don't know. So your body has been gifted that magic, so you've basically added to your little cycle here by... you're mostly neutral. If you're non-magical, you're probably gaining a little bit more negative than positive magic, depending on your patron. For this example, we'll use the fiend patron. You're probably going to get more negative energy. And say you mess up that pact and it's, nullified, you're just the same, but you've got magical receptacles in you, and you can become a sorcerer. Because you've got all that access in your body, and you just expand it.
Oh, so making a deal with a patron might be the way for a person with little or no magical talent to gain the power to develop magical abilities.
Yeah. It's
At a cost.
at a cost. It does damage you when you switch, and that's why your magic from being a warlock disappears. And dependent on your patron, say you had a fiend patron, you're probably going to be a wild mage or a homebrew sub class. So if you had I would say if you were an archfey, you'd probably be a green heart sorcerer, which is the homebrew one. It's nature. Celestials.
Sorcerers. Yeah. So if you break the pact and become a sorcerer, well, first off, welcome to being way more powerful than you were previously in a way. But also, the effect of the sorcerer is based a bit on the patron. So
Yeah.
So wild mages, green pact.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's kind of like that. The downside of splitting from that contract, you will be unconscious in Eurithan for about 1d10 weeks. Because your body is just ripped. It depends on how serious your connection was to the fiend or your pact patron. If you're like a level 20 warlock and you decide to snuff that contract out, you're going to be unconscious a lot longer than 1d10. You're just going to... It's generally... Is it a portion? I can actually look at stuff now. Because everything's connected in a different way now. That's the wrong one.
The internet's amazing.
It's amazing, Harry. Let's see. 1d4 plus 1 if you're level 5, and then it scales upwards as you go up. So 1d10 plus up to plus 5 is a 15th level, and then 1d20 is if you're level 20. So there's a chance.
Okay, so here's a follow-up question.
Mm-hmm.
If patrons can, open up these magicules in the blood of their servants, does the same apply to the gods? Like if you're devout enough, if you have like a devout enough faith, you become a cleric, a paladin, or whatever adjacent thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that ability permanently like open to you? So like if you lose your faith, for example, would you still have your power?
It's in a way, it's clerics are the chosen of their gods, or they are just so pious that they have bonded to a god. They're not pact, or they're not basically contracted to said god, which they can swap at any time. Essentially, you could be a cleric of Tyr and then move to, I don't know, Sylvanas, and the power will swap, but nothing will change really. If you decide to become atheist, which is like the weirdest thing to do in D&D.
Oh yeah, like in Eurithan, the gods are real and observable fact.
Mm-hmm.
Being an atheist in Eurithan is basically admitting you're a flat earther.
People did believe that the world was flat in Eurithan until Novaria showed up.
Son of bitches,
It's like,
Earth is pretty round.
yep.
Hey, you know,
Paladins can get their powers yanked, though.
Paladins definitely can get their powers yanked or corrupted. That's what an Oathbreaker is. That is
so
weird.
Paladins might be more related to warlocks in that case.
They pretty much are. They take a pact, like they make an oath, which is a binding verbal contract or a written contract. So they're binding themselves to either a cause or a god or an ideal. Yeah. So if they break that, that is, yeah.
All right, so they become either Oathbreakers, or would they become like Oathbreakers, or would they become like fighters?
They probably, it depends on the seriousness of it. If you are a paladin of a god, you're more likely to become an Oathbreaker, because that god has basically just cursed you with, failing them. And an Oathbreaker's entire devotion is either to destroy or to redeem. That's their polar idealisms usually. But if you are not a pious paladin, which is a thing, you become a fighter or a barbarian or potentially a ranger, maybe.
See, Moo's lenient. Moo be lenient in his world. Because in normal D&D 5e, when a paladin loses their powers, they're just a paladin without powers. They don't become shit. They're just a shit version of a fighter because they have no powers. They get 2 attacks and that's it.
Yeah, they
That's
bonk
them
twice,
for the rest
nothing.
of their lives.
Yeah. But I'm a lot more lenient. I'll be like, okay, you probably, adjust. It's not like you're having all your power ripped away. You're still going to have some innate magical ability, hence why you're still able to maybe attack twice. You've got that stamina built up, and anything that's a class level built ability from you get to probably carry over a few things, but nothing insane. Like you can't have your divine smite. It's not going to work. It won't work. You got something similar though. Potentially. I'll might need to make a subclass entirely dedicated to it.
Cursed smite.
Cursed smite. It's confetti.
No, you don't really need to change anything. You just swing, hit, do necrotic instead of radiant.
Yeah, which is what Krieg did.
Oh yeah. Krieg was a dirty, dirty cheater.
And then you made him mentally handicapped and beat the
also-
shit out of him.
We don't talk about that.
TLDR, pretty much. I.e. feeble-minded. I don't want to make people think you beat the shit out of him so bad his brain swelled and he became incapable. They feeble-minded him. So he couldn't speak, he couldn't cast magic or anything. And then proceeded to beat the shit out of him while falling through the sky. It was brilliant. It was
Honestly,
divine
it might have
comedy.
made it
Made him smart. He was really smart. He was 3 times as smart as Henry is now.
Ain't that a bitch?
And he just went,
Who's still
1.
alive? Henry.
One.
1!
You dumb boy.
You made his intelligence 1, his wisdom 1, and his charisma 1, and he was a paladin. So that
Yep,
sucked.
that completely wiped him out. You're still Divine Smite, because that doesn't need anything, it just happens, but I was like, probably makes sense that you can't do it, because it's magic. So it was
Yeah, that with the changing from divine to necrotic damage for Oathbreaker Paladin, it's almost the same as Fallen Azamar. They
Yeah.
do, regular Azamar does divine, then you have necrotic.
that is a different situation, and that is not a magical thing, so I'm not going to touch on Asmar. That'll probably be heritage, maybe? Culture and heritage?
Yeah.
Which I would love to do, because there's a lot of shit I want to talk about culture in Eurithan. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah,
I want to
but-
piece your 10-parters out, though.
Yeah, next week we're definitely doing a gang plays, so don't worry about it. Because I need a break from explaining magic. We're in the middle of gang plays. I'm pissed drunk. It's like, so, how does 18th level magic work?
Hasn't even been half an hour yet. Don't be a wuss. Come on, we're not even. Kid, I'm not even done with the first half of my page yet.
Yeah. Any branching questions from this, or can I just mosey on to the next layer?
You won't be moseying for anything. You
Well,
be
I just
fighting
did.
tooth and nail.
I've moseyed on. Next question, please.
You in the back.
You there? 400 gold. What?
Okay, Moo, let's talk about spells. Well, more about spells in this case. That's
Okay.
gonna be like my new subtopic here. I
Okay.
think I pretty much hung out everything about magic, how it's cast, and how it works out from a person level.
Uh-huh.
Let's talk about the expression of said magic spells.
Okay.
Now, the first question I want to ask is this: are new arcane spells being developed in Eurithan at this time?
All the time. If like in the current campaign, you saw Acta, who's now dead, trying out a very powerful spell, and it failed and killed him in the process. So people are constantly developing new spells. They've just got a very high failure to success ratio, because magic is very fickle.
Zook made a spell during that campaign that he ended up using towards the end.
Yeah, that's in his realm of ability, though. That's because he was conjuration. He had a conjuration of a golem that he had bound himself to. So there was already an innate link, a little thread that just went, okay, there he goes. You basically just said to the spell, tug on that string and make him come here. So there wasn't really much of a risk.
Yep, I will divide this spell category here between arcane and divine. We're
Mm.
gonna start with arcane because I imagine that'll make your brain hurt a bit more.
Oh no.
Now about arcane history here. Who was the first wizard in Eurithan?
the first wizard. In speculation historically, the first wizard in Kagara was someone called the First Sage, which was Syl of Mordoon, who is Tifaralost's sibling. Tif was the first proper powerful archmage in Eurithan. Syl eventually tried to surpass their sister and died in the process. Because when your sibling's a seeker, it's impossible to beat them. Because Big Daddy Creator Gods are in control of that. In Andorral is a different story.
Know. I'm fairly sure Vincent could have killed Tobias. I'm fairly sure.
Probably. But then he would just come back.
Yeah, they killed him again.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to
Yeah. So
Syl was the first proper air quote wizard.
Yeah, the most understood wizard. And then Tif sort of stole the limelight. In Andorral, it was Stormcaller Ina, who was the first mage of Andorral. Before
Stormcaller Ina is a sorcerer.
A mix of wizard and sorcerer.
So in other words, Syl's a wizard. Stormcaller Ina got a cheat code.
Pretty much, yeah. Started off as a wizard and then developed sorceric powers. Sorcery. Let's see here. Ovarian Magi. Now that's a different story. That's something I've never thought about. I guess Novaris is the first mage in that region. Yeah. Isn't a wizard though. Who would be the first wizard? No, he's from Farine. Oh, who the hell was it? See, Rexon. Rex. Can't remember the Novarian wizard's name. I know he's from Rexon, which is in Bahrain, which is a colony now. Can't remember the name. Definitely from there.
Good. Now this one gets a little bit nerdy. It's always fun.
Mm-hmm.
Who created the delineation between the types of magic? Because as we know, magic has several categories.
The schools,
you have your abjuration, conjuration, transmutation, evocation, etc.
Okay.
So the proper schools separate the magics, right?
Yeah, the original study of magic came about in like small teachings, like kind of like hedge magic, the fundamentals, cantrips and such. And when they identified that doing certain things with certain parts of magic, it started to do different things. So evocation it affected physical things. Conjuration made things appear and disappear or move things. Transmutation changed things, etc. So they decided, okay, things that alter something's shape, material, or appearance is transmutation. Anything that appears to change things is an illusion. Abjuration is to protect something or restrict certain things, if I think that's correct. Conjuration, you conjure something up. Evocation, you affect the physical realm, like healing is evocation. Firebolt, you heal or you harm. That's evocation. Necromancy, pretty much on the ball there, bringing back the dead. Can't remember the other schools of magic. Transmutation, evocation.
I think I got the gist here.
Yeah.
Now I went this deep without even covering the top question here.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly is a spell?
A spell is a basically like having a controller or something and just inputting like combo moves essentially and coming out with a desired effect. Over time, there were fundamental shapes which are in all cantrips. So I'll use Firebolt as an example, which is one of the original fundamentals, and it has three basically hand movements, which is up, down, and then up again and across, and that's Firebolt, and that is it's obviously this is in 2D view from the side because I can't draw hands for shit. So basically, that's where the Firebolt comes out. So your hand goes up, goes down, comes up, and then goes forward, and then you fire out. That's your somatic component to fire off a Firebolt. Something a little bit more complicated that uses somatic or verbal. Let's think. Oh, I can't think of any proper somatic ones. Wall of Fire. It's a little bit more complicated. Um, the hand movements use both hands. So if you've got a spellcasting component you're wiggling about, you're taking kind of like a. It's kind of like in guided meditation. You focus on something. So you imagine a flame in your hand, and you're turning it into a ball, and then you slide your hand across it, and that creates the wall. And that's it. That's the basic component of it. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but 2D plane can't really do much with it.
Are arcane spells the only spell type in which new spells are researched, or are there like
Oh no!
clerics in a back room somewhere
Mm-hmm.
experimenting with divine magic?
Oh yeah. Within in Aelnoth, which is the north of Kagara, so Elnothian blind clerics, which are one of the most revered people in Aelnoth, or blind priests. They sense things a little bit differently. They can feel magic around them and divine presences and invisible people. So they read in Braille, which is blah, blah, blah. I don't know what Braille numbers and stuff look like, but I tried my best. They they basically adjudicate someone making a new spell, and they'll just be like, "The god didn't like that," and the person will just stop and revise, or they'll be like, "The god has approved," and you will continue to develop down that path. That's pretty much it. They're a sensor. They're like kind of a smoke alarm for, is the god angry at me for doing this with their magic? And sometimes they're not happy. The gods are very picky. The development of different spells takes a long time in cleric terms. Divine magic is the longest development. Can take anywhere from 1 year to 1,000 years to develop one spell.
I'm assuming that means that among gods there are spells exclusive to their clergy.
Yes, that's what your expanded spell lists are. They will allow you that. They're like, okay, this isn't exactly a part of your typical prayers, but within this, you could garner an idea of what we're trying to give you. It's like, okay. So, Forged Clerics originally had shield, so, protection, armor, etc. You're developing an idea from it. Even though it's one of the most fundamental magics, a cleric wouldn't necessarily know it.
Going back to like the fundamentals of like what is a spell, I have another question along that line to clarify something in this world. In my personal canon for magic, magic is completely neutral. But in your world, is magic completely neutral? Is necromancy say, an actually evil magic versus another type of magic?
No.
Or is that just how it's perceived, viewed, by
Yeah.
like, there's liches and necromancers running around, so people are like, necromancer bad.
Yeah, that is, you pretty much nailed it on the head. It is a social perception. They're like, oh, necromancy's bad. You can't be fucking about becoming a necromancer. And then they'll turn to their cleric who'll bring back their dead grandmother. Be like, oh
Which
no,
uses
she's had a heart attack. Can you bring her back? Oh yeah, sure. Boom. Oh, thank you. Here's 300 gold. It's like, okay, and what about your brother Timmy there who failed his medical degree and he's bringing back your old cat? You gonna have a problem with him? And he's just like, yeah, I kind of got some problems. So there's a perception to it.
Yeah, I'd assume the same with blood magic. There's probably a couple of healers that use that.
There's a lot of healers that use it. Tribal, like native orcs of Kagara, like the Kaivan tribe, they use blood magic to heal and enhance people, to make them live longer, to make them fight better, to make them more resilient against disease and poison. But if you look from a quote unquote cultural, like a modernized society, they think of them as savages because that magic has been outlawed. Because it has a lot of baggage if it's done wrong. Like you can just you can go crazy and start making blood monsters. Very much like a Dragon Age with the Red Lyrium situation, kind of. That's actually quite a good correlation, actually. Oh fuck.
Actually makes sense while we're sliding in to spells.
Mhm.
So, Mill, what exactly does it's an arcane sense, spell research exactly look like? Do wizards just stand in the corner, wave their fingers, and say words until they get lucky, or is there like a method and a process behind it?
There's always a process behind it. So, a wizard, I will say, will start with, say they want to develop a conjuration spell. So teleportation, we'll say it's I spelled that so terribly. Conjuration. Yeah, that's the J. They want to teleport. They will start with a basis. They will start with the most fundamentals. So, Misty Step. I don't know the other one. You got Thunder Step.
Dimensional gate,
Yeah.
Thunderstep,
Dimension Door.
teleportation.
That's more.
Teleportation scroll.
Yeah, there'll be stuff like that. There'll be like ones that already exist, and then they'll go, okay, we've got all these spells. I want to make something unique. I might take the misty aspect of Misty Step, and I want it to harm things around, so I'm going to make it Poison Mist. So I'm going to take from Cloud Kill. I don't want it to hurt my allies as much, so maybe it'll be Evocation instead, with a small mix of conjuration, speckled in for fun. But whatever the main defining aspect of it is, it will be that. So if it's teleporting, it's conjuration. If that's the main objective of it, the evocative damage that comes after it is just the side effect. So it's basically Thunderstep, but with poison. And that's an actual spell that exists, and and it's from the First Sage, which it's called Sil's Venomous. Ah, fuck. I spelled venomous wrong, did I? No, venomous. Jump. That's it.
Another good example of that is the golem summoning spell that Zook made was
Mhm.
actually based on instant summons.
Yes, which was
It
Draw
was
Mage.
a modified version of instant summons, but that was the base of the spell.
Yeah. And, like, if you guys wanted to play a wizard and you wanted to develop your own spell, I'm all for it. Like, we saw it in Critical Role recently. You've got Widogast's Web of Fire, I think it's called. Where you shoot out little tendrils. kind of like that. It's like you just take a basic either element, school, or a base like a kind of like a control group of spells, and you just start taking. You're like, I like that. Maybe we switch that up. What spell could help with that? What somatic components affect this? And you'll take from that spell and you'll add it in. So pretty much that's process that you're seeing above. Wizard will go Conjuration, go Misty Step, which is basic, and then just fire away. It takes years. Sometimes it can cost thousands of gold to make it. The only spells that are out of reach for most people are levels above 9, which is when the gods just kind of stopped. They just put a limiter on it. But some people get through that little like flap, kind of like Nemo going through the little fish tank. They just get through all of a sudden, which is what Zook can do and Tiff can do. They just break
It actually
laws.
brings me into a really good question.
Mm-hmm.
So most people are capped to a 9th level spell.
Yes.
But even when you go just past 9th level spells
Mm-hmm.
to higher level spell slots, it doesn't necessarily break you into like a divine level of power. Like obviously
No.
gods wield a much different power of magic than like a mortal would.
Mm-hmm.
So at what point, at what like spell level does it break from being like a mortal spell into a divine spell? Because like the spell that Zook is making to strip a god's divinity
That's
would be
God level is
a
18.
divine level spell.
That's 18. That is it. 18 and above is divine. Zook has developed this to strip a god of power, which only another god can do. But your one is from a mortal coil. It affects your body and affects your like vitality so much that you go down, and it's an only temporary solution. That god will be aware of you and could be anywhere nearby and just garrot you when you're unconscious and just return back to their mortal plane and have first dibs on you. Like, this fucker tried to kill me. I get him. I'm gonna make his life miserable. So, 18th level is the boundary. That's it. That's the end of
So
where
what would you
mortals can
classify?
reach. Classify
What
in.
would you classify then the spells in between the 18th and the 9th level spell slot? If 9th level is the max of like
Demigod.
general mortal magic,
Demigod.
magic.
What Helm and lesser gods can do. Like angels can do. Celestials, I should say. What I'm going to do temporarily. Right, I will return momentarily. I'm just going to top up on some water, and I will return in just a moment. So, keep yourselves occupied. Don't cause too much trouble when I'm away.
No problem.
I'm back to a band stream.
Alright, give a minute. Just gotta adjust my little paper here. Got new questions. And I'm gonna add a new question here.
Hell
Save that,
yeah.
save that for the enchantment section.
Oh yeah, dude, I can't wait until we start breaking down each school too. Because you know I'm gonna do that.
By all means.
Or Moo.
Yep, and Yoshi's looking for his weed.
No, I'm trying to figure out where this cable goes to. I fucking wish I had weed.
Yoshi, I got some, bro. You wanna come smoke some Mac?
Fucking wish. Got that. No. Ah, fuck!
How are you losing to a wire?
No, I almost fell over.
Exactly. Are you losing to a wire?
There wasn't even a wire that I was pulling on when I almost fell. It was just gravity
Are you
and
losing
my
to
sheer
yourself?
ineptitude to walk.
Fair.
He's literally. This is what rolling a natural 1 in real life must look like.
Pretty much.
It's because he's
No,
rolling
natural
a
1, I
D6.
would have fallen over. That was like a 5, maybe.
That was a 2. It was just above the nat 1.
Yeah, I haven't been doing anything that will get TOS in our ass whilst I was away with you.
You
prove-
can't prove shit.
Yeah.
I've been proving a
fuck.
lot of shit right now. Or explaining.
Not
God.
nearly as much as you think. We were talking, we come up with new questions and new directions.
As I finish this cold coffee. That I'm grateful that
Cold brew.
groceries are arriving in about potentially 30 minutes, so happy days.
It'll just be a short break, a short reprieve until the help comes back.
But yeah, so demigod magic is just, the middle ground.
All right.
If I believe that was where we left off.
It is. It is indeed.
Right.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
demigod magic.
Yoshi, do you have any questions on magic? I feel like you've been pretty quiet. In the magic
He's just
section
been
of the
sitting back, watching me squirm. Like the fucking sadist that he is.
mainly that. Firstly, mainly that. Secondly, I don't plan for this shit. I just, while you guys are talking, like, oh, this gives me an idea. Then I'll ask it and then sit back again.
clarifying questions. I got you.
Yeah.
The roundhouse kick when the horse already down. Just waiting for the sweet release of a shotgun shell. Just come on. Just like give it one last kick before it goes down, boys.
The same thing I did in school. Just sit in the back.
I was about to say, you're gonna fucking kick horses.
No,
It's like, whoa.
I mean, like sitting in the back, not asking shit, and then all of a sudden,
Wait a minute.
what about this? Click. Ah, fuck. Reload.
Right. What is the next query of magic? I think we're firing through these a lot faster than we did last time. I think
So far.
I've got a pace, I believe.
That's because, as compared to the previous ones, these ones are a little less complicated.
Luckily, or
That's
I'm just.
Now you're just getting used to it.
Rook,
Wait,
you
you
wanted
know-
to go into divine magic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I'll be getting to that shortly, but just one. Actually, no, I'll hold off on that for now. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the magic of the gods.
Okay.
The magic of friendship.
Rainbows, sunshine, murder, death, trickery.
Alright, so when it comes to when it comes to magic itself, you mentioned that that the verbal components for divine magic is almost always like, a type of prayer.
It's similar. I can't really think of the right way to describe it. There are magic words, essentially, like abracadabra, hocus pocus, yada yada yada. Kind of like that. Like, there are magical words, which are the words of power. But they're not power words, which are different things altogether. I can't think of what the.
Power words will get their night and get their day in the sun.
Yeah. Basically, I'm about to draw the symbol that's on our little chat here. The symbols are broken up into their 4 rudimentary segments. Oh boy, I'm drawing terribly. Oh well, it's par for the course.
Yeah, the 4 alchemical symbols for earth, wind, water, and fire.
Do you remember? Yeah, pretty much. Practically, they're all based on those 4 elements. So there'll be derivations from there. So mist is fire and water combined, so it makes a certain word, or it's describing a certain word. You're generally, when you're saying a spell, you're just describing it, really. It's like, this is the magic wordage. Let's write ESC. That is a C. And that just kind of makes the thing go kind of like boom.
So it's like declaring your intention, and then the god handles the rest.
That is exactly it. It is essentially like a prayer, but it's kind of like, you better do this. This better work. I want it to just do that. Say like a wall of fire, just like, and wall of fire appears. The air molecules ignite and just, it just happens. It's not the best explanation I could think of. There is a word that I made a while ago, back when I was writing Eurithan as a short story. That there was a word for the spell component, the verbal part. I just can't remember it. And this is like 3 computers down the line, and I didn't use OneDrive at the time, so that stuff's gone to time. It's just based on tiny little notes I've got on my phone. It's about as best I can do. I can't remember the words either. Yeah. Brain is trailing, so.
All right. So then, this ties a little bit back to our previous topic about, well, individual spell power.
Mm-hmm.
If the god is doing all the magic, are they working through the cleric to make the spell, to make the effect happen, or are they like literally just chucking down a proverbial lightning bolt to aid their followers?
The best way I could describe this. Say, I'm going to draw a box here. Say your god is a nuclear power plant. It's going to send its energy to a transformer, which is you. And you get a little diddly bit out. That's it. So you're basically like a ton of energy thrown at you, and you're just like sucking it all in and then throwing it out at a very controlled rate, because godly magic is untamable, apart from when they do it. Like if a mortal tried to cast like a godly creation spell and create a new world or a new universe, bye. Gone. Turned to dust. Ended. Deceased.
So in this analogy, if the god is essentially the power source, what happens to all of the powers, like all the transformers in the mortal plane, if that god dies? Do they lose any tap into magic that they had?
Not really, no. You are still a conduit. You just end up receiving energy from elsewhere. If you were originally from this power plant, and eventually that power plant is cut off, you might start getting energy from nature. Just a little tree. Or you might get it from sheer will, so you'll become a paladin. So I can't really draw a paladin helmet, so I'll draw a great helmet, bing, 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 and then just boom, bing, boom. And just do it from sheer force of will. Or you have slight
But the
remnants.
spells change at all?
Slightly. If you're a cleric, the best thing you could probably do, most people that have a religion to a certain god won't know they're dead until their magic stops. So you're basically just running on a reserve for a while. Because when a god dies, it's kind of like a star going supernova. It's releasing so much energy, but when that's gone and dispersed uniformly, the magic stops. There are old gods that are still exploding. So you could have energy for your entire lifetime if you're like a human. But say you've tapped into a god that's been dead for centuries, millennia, millions of years, and that gets cut off, another god steps in, and then you get it from them. So, for a good example is the Raven Queen killed the previous god of death, or the afterlife, and took their position. But you still get the same power.
So it would be essentially, if a god died, it would be the god. Once that reserve's gone, the god that took over those domain or that domain of power that god oversaw would become the new power source.
Pretty
even
much, yeah.
though you're still essentially praying to the dead god.
Pretty much, yeah. But over time, the residual power will disappear, and the more what's the word, aspected or more personalized version of the magic will start to come through. For example, there's a really interesting one. So the Iron Lord and Helm, two sides of the same coin: war and protection. So say if the Iron Lord got struck off, who is a demigod, so not as powerful, won't create much of a big boom, but enough to cause a problem, Helm could step in and become a god of war and protection. Or another god could come in and just become a god of war. Or if they had a previous domain, they'd add that to their list. So it could be of war nature, etc. So with Helm, Henry knows that you get like a glowing sort of gauntlet effect or whatnot. So you get like that little,
like ethereal armor, very protective, very like.
So essentially, divine cannibalism.
it's kind of just like someone filling in your job if you got fired, essentially. I can't draw hands for shit, so excuse that. There we go.
How are new gods? Well, this is kind of a different subject, but it kind of matches this.
Mhm.
How are new gods introduced then?
Introduced as in once
into the very existence of the world. So like eventually like gods die, I imagine. It just is an unimaginable
Yeah.
like time period
Mhm.
unless some shit goes down.
Mhm.
So how do new gods step in? Like from this explanation, it explains why some gods have multiple domains, some gods have singular domains, and why there would be multiple gods governing over same domains. But how are new gods introduced? Or is there a static limit in the world, and if all of those gods were to die, that would be it?
It's a very weird way to do this, but I'm gonna stick with the Iron Lord and Helm thing here because they are both demigods who ascended from mortalhood into being so legendary and so influential in the world. They were ascended in their afterlife to these parts. So if an actual god of protection died, another god might step in and say, Helm, can you do this? And Helm might say yes or no. These demigods get an option to go up. There is a proverbial divine ceiling. A standard god cannot become a creator god. It's impossible. However, you do get divine cannibalism, which is a thing. That happened a lot with the old gods. Sarenhel, the old god of murder and blood, Sarenhel, ate the old god of the old god of birth, consumed her whole, swallowed her, essentially. Hannibal her, cooked her up, ate. So now it became of blood, rebirth, and murder. And Mordor. Mordor. I can't see it on the bottom of the screen, but
So, say a god, like loses all of his followers, like there's nobody worshiping him anymore,
Mhm.
and potentially nobody even knows of them anymore.
Mhm.
Do they just disappear? Do they lose their powers? Like, what happens to them?
it's very American God-like, yeah. Similar. They just sit in their own plane for a while, just with what they have claimed in the previous existence or in their previous terms of power. But eventually, those spirits die off because they've consumed all of their energy, and then they just disappear. They'll either just wither away and be distributed into the ether, or they will explode. One way or the other. There's a balance to be had.
And if there's like in the very small off chance that like everybody's forgotten about them and everything and they're close to dying or exploding, and then somebody manages to like remember them or start worshiping them, do they just jump back into godhood, or how does that work?
They are reconstituted. They don't become as powerful as they were. They become like a warlock patron for a while, because you're the only person. So they'll try and incentivize you. They'll give you little extra things to make you believe in them more and start to spread their word. You just become their middleman essentially. It's a kind of like a pyramid scheme in all essence, with the weakest god imaginable at the top, and then you supporting a foundation and then expanding. But if you just, die, their power disappears again, and they're just floating away, space baby. Stanley Kubrick, 2001: Space Odyssey, space baby. Let's go. You're just floating away, forgotten about, and no one will care. Even the new gods don't care, and the new gods are scared of the ones that are about to arrive because they can sometimes just appear out of nowhere, which are the children of immortals, which is what people call them. Kids with like extraordinary abilities that breach the realm of mortality. So like bringing back the dead with no spell components, or creating things out of thin air that would take a wizard a ton of gold to do. Just done. And it's like, that kid's probably a new god. We're gonna either kill them or we're gonna let them live. There's one way or the other.
Hey kid, join my army.
That has happened quite a lot in Novaria. There are 5 generals that are children of immortals, and you might fight them in the campaign we're in.
Yeah, that's fine. Nobody likes immortals anyway. They're all dicks.
No, it's just their title. They're not actually immortal. They're just called that. They are still alive. They're mortal beings.
Hey, David's not a dick.
You're not children of an immortal.
No, but he's an immortal.
No, he's immoral.
I mean, probably that too. Let's be real.
How did you just misspell word? I will make better mouth.
Yeah, for sake of any viewers, Campaign 2 crew was not a very nice crew.
Nope. And this crew's kind of like similar. You're very personally driven instead of, or like wealth driven instead of just being assholes to people.
I feel like our current crew,
You're self-serving. That's the word I'm looking for.
our domain is very much in the neutral ground. Where it's like a real 50-50 shot upon meeting our group on whether or not we're like, yeah, we should just kill you. Or, I'll buy you a drink.
Yeah. There's a defined line which you can gerrymander to be a little bit more that way or a little bit more that way. Or you can make it zigzag and really annoy some people.
Like, in a nutshell, PT.2 crew was, I'll say, we're mostly neutral with incidental, like, mostly neutral, selfish,
Yeah. Like,
doing incidental good, but definitely leaning towards, probably a bit towards evil.
yeah. That was a toe dip into a slightly evil campaign. Next campaign is just a whole fucking head first dive in. It can go two ways. So it can go murder hobo, or it can go the funniest shit you'll ever see. So, where were we? We went off on a tangent there. We're talking about the new gods that'll come after these current ones and old gods and stuff, like how they disappear.
Yes.
Is it like at a steady rate that the new gods are coming in?
No. It's kind of like it's a very strange rate. There are always a certain amount in the world, but their death rate and living rate just changes. A child of an immortal could be a peasant their entire life and never ascend because they didn't do anything worthy of obtaining that godhood. So there's been a shitload that have never made it because they didn't know.
It's a damn shame, but poor Billy. He decided he wanted to cut hair and be a barber his whole life.
Yeah.
He missed out on godhood.
He wanted to be a goat farmer.
But he does a killer mohawk.
Yeah, the gods missed out. He'd be styling them up.
Just Zeus with like braided like mohawk. It's like, oh, I like it. Just like the gold bands through it. Yeah.
Zeus with pigtails. Let's go.
Like lightning bolt mohawk. Slayer. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything else I could really approach that question with, so my answer is there's
That's fine. It was kind of like an in-between subject question anyways.
a good analogy for the rate of that is kind of like having a vending machine that will occasionally get things stuck in it, and you have to keep pressing the button a few times to get a new thing out to make the original one drop down. That's the best analogy for it. So you'll probably have to get a few little ones that'll trickle past, and then you'll hit the one, and then all of them come out at the same time. And it has happened before, and it's predicted to happen again, but it hasn't happened.
I'm the guy that'll rock that motherfucker through a brick wall to get that bitch to fall.
I'm the guy that'll stick my hand up through the little vent, like, come on.
I'll start shoulder checking that motherfucker.
Yeah,
little, like a little god tease, just like, come on.
Just let me get the one. Just come on.
Just and
then you end up getting stuck. It's like, well, shit.
It's like, well, I'm in deep shit with the current agenda.
Well, it isn't the consequences of my own actions.
I probably just give up and walk away from that stuck candy bar.
Smashing. It's like, give me my sweets!
See, that's when I see that opportunity and I go in and then I beat the shit out of the fucking candy machine for your candy bar to eat for myself.
Where's that crowbar that I stashed here last week?
Yeah, whip that bitch out. We're gonna do this the easy way or the hard way.
Couple of fake coins. Fake coins on a string.
The coins on a string.
Like, ooh, gotta get a couple.
Trick, dude.
Well, collect calls like, bye.
Yeah, but
collect call from AT&T.
Things that would reasonably apply to arcane magic probably apply to divine magic as well. They can be researched.
Yeah.
They can be researched.
Mm-hmm.
They have their own distinct sources, but otherwise follow the typical rules of magic.
Pretty much.
Here's one final question.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine this must mean that divine magic must have easier or simpler somatic components on account that. Oh, sorry, this is 5th edition. In 5th edition, wizards can do cast spells and armor. Well, only if they're proficient, though.
Yeah. It's the same with anyone. If you're not proficient in the armor, you can't cast spells. That's why a cleric that doesn't have heavy armor proficiency and wears it can't cast magic because it's too clunky and they can't make the prayer movements or gestures.
In other words, wizards can't put on full plate and cast spells, not because
Well, they can.
magic is blocked by metal or anything like that. It's because that little nerd boy never went to the gym.
There are examples of armored, like fully plate armored wizards. It's just an eldritch knight that decided they want to get higher education. just sitting there, full plate, halberd in one hand, spellbook in the other,
Or
wedged
some
into the
wizard
desk.
that got sick of getting swirlies, so he cast a transformation spell and turned into a fucking hulking knight. Cut some motherfucker's head open.
Tensor's transformation.
Yeah, man.
You're not
Oh
gonna
my-
pick on me anymore, Chad.
Underutilized spell, but very fun spell.
I'm gonna reserve that joke for after the stream because it's a bit too dark for stream, and TOS will come after me real fast.
We're too small. They don't care about us yet.
Oh no, I'm playing I'm playing safe. I'm just gonna leave a little tension in the air with it.
So I've got a question then about divine magic. If all magic exists in the world and is the same, but is channeled through various lenses and various ways in order for people to use it, then if a cleric or a paladin were to go to a different source, would they be able to draw power from it in order to do like a spell? So what I mean by this is, like, could a cleric or a paladin go to a ley line of the land,
No.
which is a source of pure magic, essentially, which is the same type of magic, just in a different lens? Would that affect them at all, like doing spell casting near that?
It can, if their god is not a part of that ley line. So the only way it would work is if you were with one of the gods of magic, like Azuth, Ayun, or a couple of the older gods. If you went with like a god that's of war, your magic might just stop working properly. Ley lines are kind of like the power lines. You're just grabbing a hold of it and hoping it works. And chances are you're going to get zapped and just down. Desista. You can still channel magic. If you're running out of all of that mana in your body, you can start to end up in a sort of maleficarum state, which is what some clerics have resorted to heal people. They'll just consume their life to channel more magic.
Aiden.
Pretty much, yeah. Like, burn a hit dice and you can cast a new spell, and it'll add on an extra amount of potential, but you're permanently losing that dice. So,
kind of like how, like, I think evocation wizards can maximize their damage once, but if they do it again, they take unstoppable necrotic damage.
Yeah.
In other words, if you're high level, they can do it again, as long as they don't mind coughing up a lung.
Yeah. But in the terms of basically overhauling yourself, like being kind of like a having a battery that's died and it's not a rechargeable one, and you plug it in to recharge it. That's what you've done to your body. You're gonna probably never work again. You might come out with some weird goopy stuff. You're just overpowering yourself and just.
So just even being near such like a pure source like that would fuck with people's magic that isn't tied to that.
Yeah, because your divine magic comes from elsewhere. Because the gods don't channel magic quite like people do, you are experiencing second-hand magic, essentially. You're casting it as a hand-me-down, like a warlock does. Whereas wizards...
Magic.
Pretty much, yeah. Ley lines are just pure untouched stuff that has been left over from cataclysmic converging events and arcane disasters in the world. Eventually, people have been able to tap into it. That's what wild mages do, because it's untouched. It's not got any assigned element or anything. It's just a power line that runs straight into a cataclysmic zone. And some people have defined magic. If they touch it, there's a chance that the wrong kind of magic will touch them, and it'll just go, nope. Pew! Team Rocket blasting off again style. You're just going away. Wild mages are chaotic, so they can just touch it and be like, okay, I've got a little bit more magic in me. And then turn into a pot plant or smell like ham for like 20 hours. So, ups and downs. Defined magic will have a risk of backfiring from a ley line. But untamed magic, such as natural magic, which is kind of untamed, and wild magic, you're fine. You're singing in the rain. And barbarians now, they've got wild magic now. So yeah, they can do it. Fucking barbarian with mild magic. Bah. I would like to bah.
Runs into a crowd, fireball on self.
Yeah.
He's a barbarian. He'll survive it. Feel bad for the other people around him.
Then cleave strike.
Takes psychic damage. Oh, fuck. Yeah.
My one weakness.
That's the best explanation I could give you. You're putting the wrong battery type in the receiver. Putting like a D battery into a AAA slot, essentially, or like a tiny little watch button battery, just plugging it in and hoping it works.
It's interesting to know that peer sources of under like a different lens or under no lens can affect greatly another source under another lens.
Yeah. Mostly these lines are protected by druids mostly, or rangers. They'll defend ley lines because if someone with evil intentions managed to manipulate it even so slightly, it could turn magic on its head, and it will just negate magic in a huge vicinity around it, like 500-mile radius. No magic. And that could cause a shitload of problems.
You mentioned that magic was essentially like background radiation.
Pretty much.
So would the magic ley lines be like a sort of reactor in this case?
Yeah, they're kind of like the core of magic in the world. And then you've got like your main kind of like your core magic, which is, say, the world, and that's it's a little radiation bubble around it. And then you got your divine magic above that, and then you've got creator magic, or absolute magic as it would be called. So you mostly tap into this stuff here, but it comes from this source, and that originally came from this source, and that came from this source, and it eventually comes all the way full circle. Pew.
Alright, so you said that naturalistic magic works better on ley lines, but more practice magic fails, or at least
has a risk. Yeah, it can burn out. It just stops working, and you could be seriously injured from it. Kind of like what's that lore in Skyrim why you can only wear 2 rings? The magic will blow your fingers off. That's what it was. Something really ridiculous like that. So, yeah, it's pretty much overcharging your battery and just bursting. Or
so druids near ley lines, wizards probably run away from them.
Wizards do study them. They are just very precautious about casting magic anywhere near the main source. You can be within 500 miles of it and you'll be fine. But if you're basically at the demon core itself, it might affect you badly.
Yeah, I assume wizards basically do like a demilitarized zone, like a perimeter around it. If you try to go past a certain line, like please drop off all magical items here before going further and whatnot.
Magical items just can be warped by it, so you're fine. Or there are specific items that are kind of like an anti-magic field in of themselves. So you store all your stuff in there, haul it on your back, and take it through that zone, and your items are unaffected. Like it's a metal or of some sort that protects against it. Like a lead box, pretty much. So you're protecting items, magical inks, etc. So you'd be fine. If you went in a lead suit of armor, you'd be fine as well. You're just heavy as shit, but you get through unaffected. And then fireball would just suck into your armor and you'd melt. Like, oh fuck! Blow out the candle, Timmy.
Are there any other magical phenomena that will interact with spells for better or for worse? Like, is there like a ideal casting condition for like arcane magic, for example?
Yeah, there's.
I imagine divine magic is probably more powerful in, say, the church or other consecrated ground. But what about like for wizards and such? Do they make their own like little domains?
Pretty much, yeah. They. I can't think of the
The
way to think
Arcanum, baby. Where we are the gods.
So a wizard
And we
will
trap hundreds of people.
a wizard will
Shut up.
typically have more power near a sort of arcane creation. So usually a powerful one. So let's say I'll do a sphere of annihilation, just a big black dot on the screen. That gives off so much energy that your magic could be influenced by it. It could be sucked into it, or it could be enhanced by the amount of radiation it's given out. Because it is just a black hole. You could also. Some wizards create towers that are kind of like beacons from Minecraft. Just like gives you a little buff now and then. This is a terrible drawing. I'm a fucking architect and I can't draw a damn turret and parapet. This is atrocious. Yeah, they can sometimes have like a big like I don't know orb with like a Tesla coil. Think of it like that. You're just getting little zappy zaps. Your little wizard hat. That's a difference. I don't know. It doesn't look like a wizard hat. You'll get like a little bit extra juice, and you can enhance.
Oh, he's fishing off the tower.
I've baited the magic gods. It's an empty spell book on the end.
It's a big one, boys.
We got a live one. Yeah, you can have these main points of power. Generally, wizards will build schools, or sages will build schools next to areas that have been affected by a calamity or by a supernatural event. A good example is Ashnalore, which is what Yoshi made, which is an area affected by a strange meteor that still stands and gives off a weird kind of cosmic magic. So they built a school around that, and anyone that studies there probably gets most of their power from that energy. So any wizard that studied there over a course of time will be more powerful there than out with. So a fireball might do a couple of extra d6 of damage, or you might be able to teleport even further with Dimension Door. Stuff like that. But outside, you just base.
Why did we never do this in a previous campaign? Build like super wizard power concentration.
Because
you really want to trust Zook with a room full of orbs of destruction?
I'm not talking about your PC. I'm talking about mine.
Your PC was a ranger. What arcane powers do you need to tap into? Or no, you were a fighter.
Yep, I was
not even a ranger. You were like way removed from magic.
I was thinking more campaign 2, not campaign 1, but yep, point. If it's like campaign 1, then yeah, no magic, don't need it, don't give a shit. But campaign 2, I could have used that. Like fuck, I was basically the party wizard the entire time.
look, let's be honest with you. Let's be honest with ourselves. If anyone in campaign 2 didn't need more power,
It was
it
their
was
own.
you.
It was the
Yeah.
artificer.
Your character did not need any more power. It was good.
You know what? I'll accept that. That was fair.
Right.
I'll accept that I was easily the most bullshit out of all of us.
Yeah, because you're like, can I upgrade the crossbow again? I'm like, yeah, fuck it, why not? I'm already past the fucking line. Just let it go. Right.
10 sessions in, do whatever the fuck you want.
You who made the sharp jump. I went through
Yeah, I don't care.
upgraded. I just wanted to fire the thing twice without needing to reload it.
Yeah.
You went, let's go 5 times.
Yeah,
I'm like,
fuck it.
all right.
I don't care.
It's like in that moment I knew, we're gonna jump the shark now.
Oh yeah, I want to jump sharks. Hell yeah. Sometimes you get bitten, sometimes you're free. Yeah.
And now another weapon like that will never be made again. That weapon will become a curiosity in time.
It is technically a curiosity. Well, now it is. So
No doubt. Imagine when Boo does his sci-fi campaign, like 150 years from now. That crossbow might show up as like a relic or something for like a PC. Like this ancient crossbow, improved by, I think it was Sirkin Willett. Yeah, he improved it. Drone's famous for wielding it. Sirkin Willett's one who actually made all that. It's just called Torment.
Yeah.
This thing
But,
killed a lot of people.
And to our left, you see this piece of shit that has stolen every kill imaginable.
yeah.
Yep.
So-
I think, that weapon was literally used to slay a Colossus.
Yeah.
Literally. I got the last
So-
hit on the Colossus.
So
But hey, I think, my curiosity about at least gods and their spells is stated for now, so we can get to the next part. Enchanted Item.
okay.
Okay, Moo, what exactly is an enchantment?
Pretty much it is a aspect of basic elements, generally in the form of glyphs or runes, or it is sort of like a message inscribed on something. It could be it could be a single sentence that has magical words in it, or it can just be a simple glyph and power the entire weapon. Enchanted weapons become a lot more complex later on. So if you have say the Sword of Cass, for example, that thing is inscribed. It was designed with the intention to become the Slayer of Vecna. So all that intention was put into its enchantment, essentially. So sometimes enchantments pick up on things, and because it's a sentient weapon, there's a lot of bad shit that went into that weapon. And just... yeah.
Alright.
Ain't pretty. So enchantments are just math equations put on an object.
Alright. That's actually a very good start.
Fire.
Okay, how exactly is an item enchanted? Who typically does it, and what do they use? I know in our games we abstract it as just this costs a shit ton of gold. What exactly happens in the process of an enchantment? It can't be as simple as chiseling the word fire into a sword,
No.
and dumping a bit of magic in it, then going whoosh.
Yeah, so basically, I can't really draw. This is kind of a weird drawing. So you've got an enchanting table, which tends to look like this. Typically, it's just a really bad drawing. And then it's got a...
I'm mentally imagining the enchanting tables from Skyrim right now.
It's kind of like that a little bit. And then these have got their points on the corners here. So you'll put 2 items either side. So say you put a sword on one corner and you put a let's say a spell page or like a scroll or something like that, you will pretty much destroy these items in the process, and they will transfer to this point. But the value of the enchantment that results from this needs to be made up for in terms of other valuable magical resources, usually diamond or some other form, like gold or very expensive leathers or oils, holy water, etc. You're basically taking a material thing and turn it into a math equation. So generally, this will say S represents, or SW represents sword, plus spell scroll equals enchanted item. But you are adding, this doesn't necessarily equal that. So you need additional parts to basically make up for the lack of value. Because
All right.
a longsword's what, 8 gold?
25.
25 gold for a longsword, right? And a spell scroll ranges from 50 to 150. So we'll go middle ground. We'll say 75. So that's 100 gold pieces right there. That's 100 gold piece value of the weapon and the material component. But say you make a flame tongue, which is a rare weapon, or that's your intention to build one, and you've laid out like the glyphs around this little square. You need to make up the value of it, and it could be anywhere within the region of 3,000 to 5,000 gold. So you need to make up about, I'll just say 2,900 gold of additional materials to do it.
All right. So with these additional materials, do they act as like a fuel for the enchanting process? Is that how they work?
Pretty much, yeah. I'm just going to move this up a little bit.
So as long as the material itself is valuable enough, or you have enough of the valuable material, the enchantment will air quote work. So we could, for example, if we had like enough gold coins stacked into one of those circles, we could theoretically speaking just get a normal sword, grab a sort of, I don't know, magic weapon, grab sort of magic weapon, or maybe some other kind of holy magic scrolls, stack them on a table, and then we could walk out with a divine avenger.
Not necessarily.
Are
Certain,
there?
yeah, there's a lot of complexities to making a very powerful weapon. Like, I'm just explaining a rudimentary, like, flamey weapon type thing, one that can like fire a firebolt, etc. As an example. A Holy Avenger is a very particular weapon, which in my idea is the hilt is covered in prayers and is bound in leather that have been stamped perfectly with arcane symbols that represent a certain word or prayer. The hilt is made out of a specialized consecrated material. The glyphs in it are made in a certain font or language. It's been passed through a sort of ceremony to reach out to the god to bless it. There's a lot of complex parts to it, and then above all else, it's the intention of the weapon. It costs a lot to make a Holy Avenger.
Alright, then to follow that up, in regards to the table itself, does like the magical power of the craftsman in question actually matter? Like, could a child, if given, like, let's say we had Tybalt grab a child off the street
Yeah.
and gave them instructions on how to use the table. Assuming that random child with no magic ability follows Tybalt's instructions perfectly, could they, in theory, make any magical item they have the materials for?
Pretty much.
Or is something needed from the
No, that is.
Okay.
It is assuming that child has a 100% success rate, no fault, follows it to a T. But people
Yes.
don't understand things immediately. Tybalt Brim is a master of this stuff. He can enchant metal wire and sew it into your clothing. and make you unstoppable in a bath gown. So you're pretty much fine on that regard. But a child could do it. A non-magical person could use an enchanting table if they knew how to use it perfectly. It's the knowledge base. It's kind of the same situation with spellcasting. The more you learn, the more you begin to experience it, the better you come. You understand the little intricacies of certain alchemical circles and enchanting rings, diagrams. That's just a basic drawing I've done. It's the more complicated ones don't require a table; they require an entire room or a floor or an entire tower to make. So that's why they get more expensive. Like what's a like the manual quickness of action, I think it's called, like the really expensive item. That takes centuries of work to make, and so much research and money and materials to build it. So it's kind of like that. It's how much work needs to go into actually research making this weapon if you can't get a hold of a actual weapon to duplicate. You're just going off of what you think it is.
So, are there other limiting factors from a magical standpoint? I imagine there are people who make it their job to make magic items in the world. But
Yeah.
there are still classifications of magic items that go to like legendary and mythical.
Mhm.
If one of those items were to be given to somebody that makes magic items, if someone came across an item like that,
So
is there another factor in the world that prevents them from, like, yes, it would be a lot of work to set up the ability to recreate it, but at the end of the day, it's like material cost. If you had
it
enough material cost,
it
would that, would they be able to mass create a mythical item like that?
not really. There you can duplicate as much as you want, but eventually there. 2 seconds.
Groceries.
Go from the comeback. And you probably should tell him to pull up his pants and just flash down the stream.
It's what they all want.
I wonder how long he wants this one to go. Last time he stopped at like 2 hours, and we're almost at 2 hours.
Yeah, probably about the same, and we're barely touching enchantments.
Dude, he
guess
has
so.
no idea. There's gonna be like 30 parts.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, because I got like from the general topic of enchanting to, well, for starters, difference between arcane and divine enchantments. Well, of course, there's always alchemy, enchanted materials and reagents. It's gonna be fun. Well, for me. I'm kind of sad that we're doing this with the one character that will never enchant a darn thing in his life.
Hey, you don't know that. He just said people without magical power can enchant things.
That's true, but I used an enchanting table during campaign 2, and that bounced off my intelligence score.
Ah, yes, our party's strong suit.
Yep. Just like I think it's only Lucius who has like a positive intelligence modifier.
I thought Coronar did as well.
No, Coroner's got a 10. He's like +0.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, that's what Lucius is
that.
at as well.
Hell yeah. Fuck
Oh,
positive intelligence. We don't need
the
that.
average intelligence score of this party is 9. And in comparison, campaign 2 was filled with like geniuses. I mean, Drone doesn't even count in that regard. Like, did Dotrin have like 12 intelligence or something?
Something
Or
like that, 12 or 13, I think.
Yeah, Dotrin had like 12 intelligence. David had like 18 at the end of the campaign.
It was 18 or 19, yeah.
Let's see.
Like,
Yep.
even
Mm.
like, yeah, it's kind of insane. Yeah, it's just kind of insane. Like, last characters are uber geniuses. Meanwhile, Spitz has like a quarter the intelligence their own does, which is funny to me.
Lucius is rocking a solid 10.
Yep.
But imagine if we all got
Apologies,
the
lads.
fucking tiara that gives us 18 intellect.
Yep. That would be disappointing. Hey, he's back.
Yeah,
Good.
I thought I heard the grocery guy buzz the door, but turns out I was just hearing things through the walls. So
Alright, more good. I got more suffering for you, man.
yeah, I've got to answer Kenny's question though. Magic does have a limit. There are people that will build magic items specifically. They are divided in two groups, which are the artificers who build it, and the arcana mechanics who research and develop it. Think of like you got your +3 swords. If you, for example, want to build a +4 weapon, you're basically increasing the amount of magic an item can hold. Kind of like a computer processor. The more powerful you want it, the more delicate and intricate it becomes, the more powerful it becomes. By the time you get to +6, it's so difficult to make like an inch of that material. It's so expensive to. There's no point of mass producing it. I mean, this is what 17th century Eurithan, technically. So,
Could
I mean, wouldn't it
21st century Eurithan pull it off?
like, maybe a couple thousand years down the line.
Wouldn't
Alright.
it still be profitable though? Because like
No.
one mythic item sells for
Yeah, but where's the
fucking
market for it?
logos.
Where's the market for it? Maybe a 30th level
Rich
adventurer
adventurers.
a mythical item costs between 1 to 5 million gold on average. And there's like probably one person in the world that could buy that, and that would be Zook, and he has no use for it. It's the most pointless thing in the world.
True, he cares not for magic items. He's got enough magic.
Exactly. So there's not enough need for it, so they'll build them and then just keep them there. And then maybe one day someone will come along, but they're only going to be maybe a couple of them at any given time. There's no real need to do it.
Alright, move for the common parlance like weapons and armor is the most common magical items, I'm assuming. Well, no, I imagine the most common magical items are in fact potions, right?
By
Or would they
definition,
be-
yes. By the definition that a potion is considered a magic item in D&D, yes. Alongside like common magic items like spice pouch, very common item. Cloak of billowing because you want to look fucking awesome. Yeah. The hell's the other one? Conductor's wand. That's another common one in Novaria. Anyway, well, enjoy them operas.
Mysterious key.
That one's
So I should
not so
I
common.
imagine, but yeah, like topic when we say magic enchanted items, we're probably talking about, magic swords and such. So what exactly would be a +1, like say magic sword? What exactly would go into that, and how like in the fiction would a +1 weapon be like?
Right. The things that go into it tends to be either a magical material. So I created the metal index for that reason. So you can get like extra bonuses to it, but any slightly enchanted like alloy of iron or steel, which steel is an alloy sort of, then you're gonna get a magical effect. It'll magic just kind of comes a temper for the weapon. The more you temper it, the more powerful it becomes and sharper, and you can grind it a lot further. The I don't really know how else to word this. It's quite a weird one to word. I really don't know how to answer that. In full, anyway.
Alright, so a so assuming no other special abilities, a +1, +2, or +3 weapon would simply be a magical weapon that has been tempered with like magic, with like a type of magical material.
Yeah, it's either fully crafted out of it, it's been coated in it, or it's been tempered in a magical oil, or quenched in a magic oil. A good example, I'll say a good example, an example of it is a Nocturne sword, Knight's Grace. That was a adamantine blade that was dipped in an oil of slipperiness, so it cuts super finely and cleanly. Never like gouges or does anything. You just cut and it comes out. There's no jam. It just slides. So there's a lot of benefits to using a quenching oil that's enchanted, or a magical material that has a certain property that you might want.
Alright, so basically a +1 weapon uses one of the more impressive processes to improving weapon. So essentially like a +3 sword would be probably forged in magical fire, tempered with magical oil,
Mm-hmm.
and then hit at the enchanting table with one final dose of magic before it becomes the +3 sword of wootness.
Very much a +3 weapon is wholly made out of magical materials and forged with magical materials. Like I said, arcane fire could be dragon's breath, could have been, tempered in a fairy fire, could have been made out of some like relentite, or quenched in the blood of a fae, stuff like that. Like crazy, bizarre things that are magical. You can make a magic weapon out of. Obviously, the blood of a fae or a unicorn is cursed, so don't dunk your weapon in it. So, yeah, you basically, if you gather enough magical material to make a magic weapon, you could do it. It might not be powerful to start with, but if you keep just dunking it into magical stuff, it will get more powerful. It doesn't stack. It just you might if you keep dunking and quenching a sword into like molten metal, you're just gonna have a really thick sword with a dinky little handle on it, like a buster sword.
This is actually a pretty good segue into it too. What exactly is a cursed magic item? What brings about a magic item to become cursed? What
Okay.
changes its original magic of enchanting to be this way?
So there are two causes of it. It can either be a god has cursed the item, or it has become corrupted through another medium. So, godly cursed items such as the Talisman of Pure Evil, or whatever it's called, big spooky thing that controls the Sphere of Annihilation. That was basically intended to be evil. So God just kind of just went, okay, that is intentionally evil. It's probably going to curse you. So we're going to add one in just to make it concrete. Whereas being cursed from another source, like the material or how you quenched it, like I was mentioning, unicorn blood and fey blood, the gods intentionally made that when they created those creatures. If I recall, it was Sylvanus that did it to the unicorns. I can remember the wordage. Those who I can't be bothered writing it. It was those who shall bathe, drink, and feast upon the blood of the unicorn shall be cursed with hunger eternal. So you basically get a hungry sword that's out for blood, and it will start to manipulate you in itself. It becomes semi-sentient. and will just start to make it a little bit more murderous than usual because it's just hungering for blood. Great war weapon if you're in a big battle and you're just like, I'm just going to stand still and just being like,
But probably not the kind of weapon you want to keep around to defend your house.
no, because it could be like, I haven't had the taste of blood in a while, buddy.
Come here, Timmy.
The dog's looking kind of nice. How about your grandmother? She'll be soon anyway. Might as well. It's freebie. Yeah, not a good. It's not exactly something you would keep next to your bed. Probably something you hang up in the loft behind a big steel door. And it just says, "Be careful. Do not net near children."
So those are the
You're
only
shouting
two
in the middle
ways
of the night.
then, like a god's direct curse or a cursed material was used in the making. There's no magic items that become cursed slowly over time or anything.
I think I did mention this last time, and I might have forgotten the third thing.
Could a item end up cursed just by you massively fucking up the process?
Kind of. It can become dysfunctional, so it could be considered a curse. It just won't work properly. So you try and make a +1 sword. It could be a -1 sword if you fuck it up that badly. Can happen.
Okay, that makes some sense.
Like Kenny was saying.
Here's the question: Are all enchantments done through just through through the air quote enchanting table process, or do enchantments sometimes happen like naturally? Because like I notice with like a lot of our curiosities and such,
Mhm.
they're aligned with these figures within the setting, and oftentimes they mentioned that there's this like part of these items are part of their like air quote legend.
Yeah.
So would these items have made these people legendary, or would their actions have, made the weapons that much more like intriguing?
It's kind of like that. When that person wielded it in their lifetime, it was just a normal magic item to them. They just had it made for them because it wasn't exactly something incredibly powerful. It could have just been like a ring that helped them pick locks a little bit easier. And then as like their feats grew larger and more intricate and obscene and legendary, the tale got twisted a little bit. And as history passes and the word of mouth begin like to alter, the magic changes with it. It's kind of like how worshipping a god affects them. If you stop believing in them, their power fades. But if you change the way the prayers are, it affects them. So, like, you could start shouting blood for the blood god to Palor, the god of the sun, and will become a god of murder and death eventually. If no divine intervention is incentivized. But yeah, legends and stories change magic. They slowly alter things if the story is wildly powerful enough. It's the magic of storytelling, which is like a weird passive magic.
Okay, so like for instance, I hate to harp on back at Campaign 1, but the Tanagashima itself was a legendary weapon
Yes.
in a story, and it eventually lost its power.
Yeah.
But but like if the story spread long enough and got around enough, would it eventually like gain its some of its magic back in that way?
It might get a different kind of power. It was a weapon that cast upon a divine wind, but as the magic just dissipated, it eventually just became a rudimentary +2 rifle, I think. +2, +3,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, it was like a +2 weapon, as I recall.
Yeah, it was
I ended up replacing it with the Thunderstroke carbine, as I recall.
Yeah. Yeah, if enough stories are told about it, obviously not in, say, Vincent's generation, but maybe a couple hundred years down the line, when the stories become insanely wild, how an old man shot a dragon god to death with it. that would fucking make it a dragon slaying weapon. Eventually, you'd be like, oh, it does extra damage. A dragon slaying gun.
Oh, look at that. 150 years later, boom, there it is. We found the Tanagashi, and it will blow a dragon's head off.
Kind of, yeah.
Divine wind.
Yeah, it's similar.
So that's one reason to keep around, I guess, heirloom magic items then.
Yeah, pretty much. It would just become a part of a curiosity set, or it'd be an object of power in of itself. Like, it's so unique that it's not part of a set.
This also happened to like individual people. Like they become famous enough, would the magic in turn make them like mightier in that way?
If they live long enough, yeah.
So, like for instance, Navarus is basically
He's been around for a very long time.
He's basically
His magic
Chuck
is
Norris
insane. Yeah, he's Chuck Norris.
He's the Chuck Norris of our universe.
Yeah.
So would that mean that essentially part of Navarus' insane power is that he's literally worshipped to like a godlike figure by his like ridiculous empire?
Yeah, because the stories of his greatness, he's kind of like Alexander the Great, where the stories preceded him. Like everything was just beyond and just made this image of an untouchable warrior god like person. And because he's lived so long, he's become unstoppable in certain regards. No one's dared challenge it because they've heard stories that a single touch could break your spine. Stuff like that. It's like crazy, ridiculous things. How he's the untouchable emperor. So, oh my god, this is a Warhammer emperor. Oh my god.
With that in mind, the image that I immediately got was Kim Jong-il.
Yeah. So would this mean that, like, theoretically speaking, if we just took like an NPC, blamed all of our heroics on him, he would somehow, through the power of magic, actually be able to keep up with said heroics.
Yeah.
If the story was told loud enough and long enough.
If they lived long enough and the stories kept going, yeah, it would happen. They're like the gods of fate start to just rewind the threads and start making a new one instead. So you're basically just fucking up fate and just like cutting at their little string and fraying it a little bit, and they just start sewing the new bit instead.
No, that basically means you made bards the most powerful beings in the universe.
You're damned. You bet you're damned, Skippy. I hear something in the wind, and I think it might be the delivery guys.
That's what you thought last time.
By the way, are you trying to keep these like 2 hours long?
More or less, yeah. I can go on for maybe one more question or so till about 9 o'clock my time, so another 20 or so minutes. But I have a very innate feeling that that is the grocery delivery, so I will probably call it here just in case, because it could take a while, because one of us is incapacitated right now and unable to assist. But I'll stick around.
Oh God. Is Joe okay?
Oh yeah, he's just
Yes,
just
but
a little.
We can't mention it
A little.
yet.
Okay.
Little.
That's fine.
Little, you know,
continue
David Steinbrück style.
Yeah, we can continue the topic of enchanted items.
Yeah, can do it next time.
The next podcast.
In like 2 weeks.
Part 3. It's a very wide topic, and I haven't even touched alchemy yet.
Oh baby,
boy,
you're opening
we're
a can of
gonna
worms that I love to talk about, because I'll be there for hours. I did an entire paper on it back in high school.
It's good that you're so excited, because that's gonna be just like one part of the next 10 that are also needed for this.
So
Yeah, because like alchemy will, like I spent like 2 years all up in like the concept of like alchemy and the nature of like the characters and such, with like the use of alchemy, what effect alchemy has had like inside like the friggin' campaign. Like legit, if there was no alchemy used with our characters, we never would have ended campaign 2 in a reasonable time frame. We'd be dead. Just dead.
And I was right. So, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, stay safe out there, adventurers.
All right, take care now.
Cheetah
Even a
boy.
lich is right. Even a